Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Adubato. We are honored to be joined by Harold Reynolds, who is not only a former great Major League Baseball player, also an Emmy, four-time Emmy Award-winning sports commentator at the MLB Network. Good to see you, Harold.
Hey, great seeing you, Steve.
Harold, do you mind if I tell folks just a little bit about your exploits, if you will, on the field?
Absolutely.
10 seasons with the Seattle Mariners, two-time American League All-Star, three-time Gold Glove second baseman, led the American League in steals in 1987. One of the Mariners' career leaders in 10 offensive categories. Also played with the Orioles, the Angels. Philanthropist, the George Bush Senior Award, Points of Light, Roberto Clemente Award, Dr. King Award for humanitarian efforts. Harold, an honor to have you with us.
Hey, my pleasure. You have a platform, so I'm the youngest of 8 kids, and that's where all the humanitarian stuff comes from. Grew up on welfare, single-parent home, and we always knew that when we got in a position to impact other people's lives, we were going to do that. So that was kind of where that all comes from for me.
Let's stay on that. The other thing, let me disclose, is that Harold's daughter, my daughter, play softball together. They're at different ages, but they're hard-working softball players, and Harold's at virtually every game, and people are constantly asking for his advice about things, and he's just there to be a part of that experience. Let me ask you, softball/baseball for younger kids, harder to get them motivated to want to play this game than ever before?
I think the numbers are changing. Yeah, a little bit, not as much anymore. And obviously you and I are in unique situations because our kids are constantly wanting to play. But globally, particularly in the US, the numbers are rising. Actually, it's kind of steady climb. The other sports are starting to decrease a little bit. So it's kind of an oxymoron because you would think there's not as many kids playing baseball and softball as there used to be. But I think with softball being part of that equation, it is exploding across the country. So I think that rises the numbers for baseball as well when we throw it in that group.
Now, Harold, Major League Baseball, they got this rules committee, right? They're changing a few things about the game. Number one, they're trying to make the game faster. How the heck do you make the game faster? Help everyone understand that.
Well, I think it's more about the pace. A couple things. One, the ball's not in play. Clearly, with the high strikeouts and home run swings, you're going to get more strikeouts, and therefore the ball's not going to be in play. It's going to be ball 1, strike 1, ball 2, that type of stuff. And about 2 years ago, I think the average was over 4.5 minutes before the ball was actually in play. So there's not as much action. When I was playing, if you struck out 100 times in a season, you were never playing Major League Baseball again. You know, now it's like guys struck out like 100 times a season. It's no big deal. So we were put the ball in play generation. And so we worked a lot faster and the pace was quicker. So I think that's why the rules are being implemented to kind of get guys in the box, swing the bat. Let's go. Let's get this game moving and hope of putting the ball in play more.
Let's talk about a second change, the shift. So Anthony Rizzo with the Yankees, right? Left-hander. You got 6 guys over on that side of it. That is being banned by Major League Baseball. A, why? B, what impact do you think it'll have, Harold?
Well, I think number one, why it's being banned is players won't hit the ball the other way. Why won't they hit the ball the other way? Because they're not being paid to do that. We are in a time where they're being paid to hit home runs, on-base percentage. That's where everybody's at in the front offices of Major League Baseball. So for a guy like me or Rod Carew or my generation to walk up there and have half the guys on one side of the field, we'd have just hit the ball the other way and went for our batting average and said, great. You don't get rewarded that way, so I think it's changed the game. The reason the rule is in is to enforce action. Once again, it goes back to that same thing. Like, let's take Anthony Rizzo, for example, left-handed hitter. Major League Baseball average for left-handed hitters on balls hit on the ground is 160 because of the shifts. And so you'll see your favorite team, whether it's Rizzo or whoever it might be, hit a ball to the right field. There's a guy standing out in right field, and he's actually the second baseman now. And he's sucking up ground balls and throwing guys out. So they want to take that away. And the other part of that is that great athleticism is gone. We always hear this generation is the best athletes, right? But when you're standing as statues of 5 guys on one side of the field, you don't see that athleticism come into play. With the shift rule, the plan is you have 2 infielders on each side of second base. Their feet have to be engaged with the back core of the dirt. That's all the deeper they can go. Right. Now you're looking for that athlete again, that Robbie Cano going up the middle and flipping it back over to second base. You know, that type of athlete and action, we're trying to get that back in the game.
Love it. And real quick, can I get the bigger bases? Major League Baseball is making the bases bigger. Why?
Well, that's one that kind of throws everybody. But they tested all this in over 8,000 games in the minor leagues. And they found that the 3-inch difference, one is more put in for safety. For the first baseman's leaning in for a throw coming from across the diamond, they felt like the numbers of collisions at first, sometimes that you see, really loosened that up a little bit. And then the other part was to encourage stolen bases. You know, it is a game of inches. I don't know if I would all of a sudden said, okay, I got 3 inches, let me go run. That changes everything. But that is a big part of it. But I think they all work together, Stephen. I'll throw this in there real quick as well. The other thing is the throw over rule that pitchers have. They have 18 seconds to deliver a pitch. And then if you throw to first base twice on a pickoff, right? Then the third time you either have to pick the guy off or deliver home or it's a balk. So
you can't throw 5, 6, 7. I'm sorry for interrupting, Harold. You can't just keep throwing to first base.
No way. Not anymore. Only 2 throws over. If you throw over on the third time, you have to get him out or it's a balk.
Yeah. By the way, in 1987, when Harold led the American League Steals, I can't imagine how many more bases he would have stole if the bases were bigger. Hey, how about? Can I do this one? Harold, I saw you in the Derek Jeter documentary on ESPN. Did I not?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I told Derek there's no documentary without me. I covered his whole career.
What is the most, as a hardcore Yankee fan, I have my Derek Jeter cup that I've been carrying around. Back in the day, it's fallen apart, but it's a Derek Jeter thing. I loved Derek Jeter. Love Aaron Judge as well. Don't know where he's going to be. We'll see what happens. Derek Jeter matters to baseball because
of who he is and the way he carried himself. His legacy, I think, stands because of that. Unbelievable Hall of Fame player, all of that. First Yankee to get 3,000 hits, first ballot Hall of Famer. But it's the character of the man off the field. You know, I met Derek when he was first called to the big leagues. He was 20 years old, I believe. And he asked me that winter to go to Kalamazoo, his hometown where he grew up at, and do a baseball clinic with him. Went out there in the snow, hung out with Derek, and we've been tight ever since. And he is the same person that I met when he was 20 and knowing him now all these years later. He is just one of those special, rare human beings that fame and fortune never affected him. He knew all the time what he wanted to do and how to carry himself. And a lot of it has to do with his parents and his family as well.
Give me a minute on this. There's a broadcaster over on Fox who I believe she was the one who said, shut up and dribble. Athletes should play the game and not be engaged in social justice, racial justice issues. Colin Kaepernick and the rest. Go ahead.
I mean, for me, I grew up in a generation where I'm just off the cusp of being involved in the normal civil rights movement. You know, I'm 61. And in 1965 and 68 and on through, when it was really heated and heavy, I'm 5, 6, 8 years old. And I'm growing up in a family, like I said, of youngest of 8. And I mean, my older siblings knew all about the civil rights movement. So I was taught in that. And we were always taught, use your platform. And I think now, as the years have gone through, we see how important athletes are in our country. And if we look back through the civil rights movement with Jackie Robinson or Muhammad Ali or Jim Brown or Bill Russell, all the other athletes that have come forward, and you can throw up Bill Walton or other white colleague friends that have come with them through these movements. If athletes don't stand up, I don't know where we're at in this country, because that really was the barrier breaker of accepting racial divide came through athletics. And so it played a big part anyway, when you were seeing those athletes and they were able to be in locker rooms and tear down walls of stereotypes and become friends with people. I think a lot of that has to do with the movement of the country that we have. So I think there's a role for athletes. And actually, if you're not speaking up, I think it's a disservice for the platform that you have. So I think you're called to duty with the platform.
Harold, cannot thank you enough, not just for being with us, but for sharing, particularly what you just shared. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
I'll see you on the field. Well, not playing, because I batted, never mind. I went 1 for 16 on JV high school, and then they said, goodbye, go become a talk show host. That's Harold Edwards. Thank you,
It
Harold.
worked out pretty good for you.
Yeah, not bad. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by Holy Name, the Fidelco Group, Fedway Associates, Inc., the Northward Center, the New Jersey Education Association, Summit Health, Investors Bank, Kane University, and by Johnson & Johnson. Promotional support provided by bestofnj.com and by northjersey.com and Local IQ, part of the USA Today network.
Harry!
Nothing has ever been handed to me. I've had to work for it. On the field. And off the field. Kane worked with me, guided me, helped me climb higher. To get where I belong. To change my life.
Hey, welcome to the team.
Cougars climb higher. Kane University.